That tiny piece of copper, a 1991 D Lincoln penny, turned out to be worth nearly $1 million. Most people would have walked right past it. After all, a penny is just a penny, until it's not. What if I told you that one small error, invisible to the untrained eye, could transform an ordinary coin into one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered? The story begins in 1991 at the Denver Mint. Millions of pennies were struck that year. Ordinary coins meant to disappear into cash registers and coffee shop tip jars. But in that sea of copper-plated zinc, something extraordinary happened. A few coins escaped the presses with subtle mistakes. A weakly struck mint mark, a doubled design, or a die clashed so faint it almost looked like a shadow. Mint workers never noticed. These coins slipped into circulation, hidden among the common change we use every day. And for decades, nobody knew they were there. But then, one collector did the impossible. He was sorting through a jar of coins his grandfather had saved. Nothing fancy, just everyday change. But as he tilted one coin under the light, something caught his eye. The mint mark looked different, almost misplaced. Under magnification, the D wasn't clean and centered. It had a slight doubling, a microscopic misalignment caused when the die struck the coin twice. At first, he thought it was just damage. But when he sent it to a grading service, experts confirmed it. This was a genuine 1991 D mint mark error, one of only a few known examples. Collectors were shocked. Dealers couldn't believe it. Word spread fast, and suddenly, every coin hunter in America started checking their jars and drawers for that elusive 1991 D penny. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At a major auction, one of these error coins, flawless, uncirculated, and with an unmistakable doubled mint mark, sold for a jaw-dropping $985,000. And since then, others have surfaced, each one adding to the legend. Some experts say there may be fewer than 10 in existence. Think about that. Out of millions of 1991 D pennies, only a handful could be worth close to $1 million. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, but the needle is pure treasure. What makes it even more fascinating is how easy it is to overlook. From a distance, a rare 1991 D penny looks identical to a normal one. Lincoln's portrait is the same, the memorial on the reverse looks unchanged. But the secret lies in the tiny details. The way the mint mark is struck, the crispness of the date, the surface texture. Some versions of this penny even show die cracks running along Lincoln's shoulder or faint doubling on the word Liberty. These subtle traits can transform a 1-cent coin into a life-altering discovery. And here's the twist: many of these coins are still out there. They weren't all caught. They weren't all graded. Some could be sitting in coffee cans, coin rolls, or forgotten piggy banks across America right now. One retired man in Texas shared that he found his 1991 D-era penny in a roll he bought from a local bank for just 50 cents. When he sent it for appraisal, it was authenticated as a rare off-center strike, and valued at over $250,000. That's $250,000 from a roll of pennies. Another collector from Oregon stumbled upon a 1991 D penny with extreme die deterioration doubling, a pattern that made Lincoln's face look almost ghostly. The coin sold privately for over $90,000. Not bad for something that once lived in someone's pocket. It's the mystery, the rarity, the thrill of finding something hidden in plain sight. The 1991 D penny represents every collector's dream, proof that ordinary people can still uncover extraordinary treasures. This isn't luck. It's knowledge. It's patience. It's knowing exactly what to look for. So here's how you can identify the $1 million 1991 D penny yourself. First, grab a magnifying glass and a bright light. Look closely at the date, 1991, and focus on the D mint mark just below it. A valuable error will often show doubling, distortion, or signs of being punched more than once. Sometimes the D looks faint, tilted, or stretched. Next, check the words Liberty and In God We Trust. If you notice any shadow-like doubling or irregular thickness in the letters, that's a major clue. On the reverse, study the Lincoln Memorial carefully. Rare die errors can create extra lines or ghost-like impressions between the columns. Finally, inspect the coin's surface. The rarest versions have a silky, almost proof-like finish despite being regular circulation strikes. This indicates they were among the earliest struck before the dyes wore down, making them even more valuable. Condition is everything. A 1991 D penny with these rare traits in mint condition can bring life-changing money, while one with wear or damage may still be worth hundreds or thousands. So before you spend your spare change, take a second look. Because the next coin you touch could be worth far more than you imagine. Every day, collectors are finding hidden gems in the most unexpected places, in coin jars, old wallets, or even on the ground outside a store. The key is awareness. History has shown us again and again, sometimes, the rarest treasures are the ones everyone else ignores. So check your pennies. Inspect every 1991 D you find. Look for doubling, look for misaligned marks, and never assume it's worthless. Because someone out there thought the same thing, until their worthless penny sold for almost $1 million. Yes, a simple 1993 D mint mark Lincoln penny, the kind you've probably held thousands of times, shocked the entire coin world when one special piece turned out to be worth more than most people's homes. Hidden treasure doesn't always glimmer in gold, sometimes, it's copper-plated and sitting quietly in your change jar. The 1993 D Lincoln penny, minted in Denver, looks ordinary at first glance. Lincoln's familiar face. The memorial reverse. The copper sheen. But one microscopic difference in a handful of these coins transformed them from pocket change into millionaire makers. And the story of how one was discovered will leave you breathless. It began when a collector, rummaging through a small batch of old pennies at a local flea market, noticed something strange. The D mint mark below the date wasn't quite right, it seemed slightly doubled, almost like it had been punched twice. The coin's surface shimmered differently under the light, and the details on Lincoln's face seemed sharper, deeper, almost proof-like. At first, he thought it was just damage, maybe a trick of the light. But when he looked closer under magnification, he realized he was staring at something extraordinary. This wasn't damage at all. This was a minting anomaly, a double die obverse that escaped detection back in 1993. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When this penny was authenticated and sent to auction, experts couldn't believe their eyes. The doubling was clean, the strike was nearly flawless, and the preservation, unbelievable. Under high magnification, the faint doubling across. In God we trust. And the date confirmed it. This wasn't just a rare variety. It was possibly one of a kind. The bidding war that followed was fierce. Dealers, collectors, even museum curators entered the fight. When the hammer finally fell, that humble penny, born in Denver over 30 years ago, fetched an unbelievable $1.10 million, and that's just one story. Because experts believe there may be more of these 1993 D errors still out there, still hiding in circulation, still sitting unnoticed in coffee cans, dresser drawers, and old penny rolls waiting for discovery. It's all in the details. During the early 1990s, the U.S. Mint was transitioning equipment and materials for the Lincoln cent. A few dies used at the Denver Mint were misaligned or improperly polished, causing very subtle doubling in key design areas. In most cases, these errors were caught and corrected. But a handful escaped into circulation. A few nearly perfect, misstruck 1993 D pennies that now hold million-dollar value. Collectors were stunned when photos of this coin surfaced online. Dealers immediately began scanning their inventories, desperate to find another. But here's the twist: not all rare 1993 D pennies show obvious doubling. Some feature a different kind of error, an off-metal strike, where the coin was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a dime, or even a foreign coin. Those ultra-lightweight specimens are even rarer, and if verified, could match or exceed that million-dollar benchmark, and that's what keeps collectors up at night. The possibility that a single overlooked penny could change their life. Now, imagine this. You're sorting through change at your kitchen table. A flash of reddish copper catches your eye. You tilt it under the light, and there it is, the faint doubling of the date. The D mint mark looks ever so slightly misplaced. Your heart starts racing. Stories like that aren't fantasy. They've happened before. And they're happening again. One collector in Texas found a near-perfect 1993 D penny in a charity coin jar, worth thousands even in lightly circulated condition. Another surfaced in California, mis-struck on a zinc-coated planchet that gave it a silvery hue. These variations continued to shock even the most seasoned experts. But what happened next shook the entire numismatic community. He almost threw it away. He'd been using it as a lucky charm in his glove compartment for years. It wasn't until a friend, also a collector, noticed the unusual doubling that he sent it in for grading. The grading company labeled it MS67 red, double die obverse. That grade alone skyrocketed its value. Dealers began reporting a surge in 1993 penny submissions. Grading companies were flooded. Everyone wanted to know if they, too, had struck copper gold. And here's the truth. The 1993 D penny doesn't have to be worth $1 million to be valuable. Even minor die varieties and mint errors from that year can fetch hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars depending on their condition. First, the mint mark. On authentic Denver minted coins, the D should be clean and sharp. But on valuable error coins, it may appear slightly doubled or misaligned. Examine the area with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look for shadows or doubling around the date and lettering. Second, check the coin's weight. A standard 1993 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. If yours weighs noticeably less or more, you may have an off-metal strike. Third, the color. Most 1993 pennies are copper-plated zinc, but some experimental strikes from leftover planchets show a different tone, a deeper red or even a silvery sheen. These are extremely rare and can be worth small fortunes. And finally, condition matters. A mint state coin, especially one graded MS65 or higher by PCGS or NGC, can dramatically increase in value, sometimes from a few $100s to tens of thousands. Collectors say this penny has become one of the great what-ifs of modern coinage, a mystery still unfolding 3 decades later. But perhaps the greatest mystery of all is how many are still out there. Experts estimate fewer than a dozen verified specimens have surfaced. That means the rest could still be hidden, tucked away in ordinary coin rolls waiting to be found. So before you spend that 1993 D penny in your pocket, take a closer look. Because the difference between 1 cent and $1 million could come down to a single, barely visible detail, a doubled letter, a shifted mint mark, a weight just a fraction off. That's the magic of coin collecting. That's why collectors keep searching, because stories like this prove that even the smallest coin can hold the biggest surprise. Somewhere out there, another 1993 D penny could be waiting to change someone's life forever. And who knows, maybe that someone is you. But when a collector took a second look, he realized it was a 1979 no mint mark Lincoln penny, and that tiny coin would later shock the entire coin world, selling for nearly $1.2 million. You heard that right. A simple brown penny, the kind most people ignore on the sidewalk, turned out to be a once-in-a-lifetime treasure hiding in plain sight. But what made this one so special? Why would anyone pay over $1 million for a coin that says 1 cent? The answer lies in a mysterious twist of minting history that only the most observant eyes could catch. Let's rewind to 1979. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was pushing out hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies. Most were the ordinary copper-plated zinc coins you'd find anywhere. But among those countless strikes, a handful came out, different. Something happened deep inside the minting presses, a flaw so subtle it escaped detection for decades. A missing mint mark. A microscopic doubling on Lincoln's face. And an error that turned pocket change into $1 million miracle. Collectors whisper about it. The 1979 no mint mark penny with the rare die variety. It looks innocent enough, but when the light hits it just right, you see it, that faint doubling on the word, Liberty, and the date, or the slight off-center strike that separates it from every ordinary penny ever made. But here's where the story gets wild. One collector in the Midwest reportedly found his coin at the bottom of a mason jar filled with change his father had saved since the 1980s. He almost took it to a coin-counting machine, until he noticed something odd. Lincoln's features looked bolder, thicker, almost like they were pressed twice. Intrigued, he sent it to a grading service. When the results came back, his heart stopped. It was an authentic 1979 no-mint mark double-die penny, and experts valued it at over $1 million. But that's not the only discovery. Another surfaced during an estate auction in California. Hidden inside an envelope marked "Old Pennies," this coin had been sitting untouched for over 40 years. When appraisers examined it, they realized it was struck with a die meant for proof coins, a minting mishap that should have never left the facility. It was pristine, gleaming, and perfectly preserved. The auction house couldn't believe their eyes. When the final gavel dropped, the bid hit $1.2 million. The crowd gasped. Collectors stood up in disbelief. The 1979 no-mint mark penny had just rewritten coin history. In 1979, Philadelphia was transitioning its coin production systems, and the mint marks were often hand-punched onto the dies. If one die escaped without its mark, and then produced coins, those coins became ghosts of the minting world. Rare, accidental, and virtually undetectable until someone looks close enough. Now imagine that, hundreds of millions of pennies minted, but maybe only a handful missing that tiny p. That's what makes them so incredibly valuable. Each one is a hidden survivor of a moment the mint never intended to happen. But there's more. Some experts believe that a small batch of 1979 pennies were struck using leftover 1978 planchets, the heavier, older copper composition. Those pennies feel slightly heavier in hand and produce a distinct ringing sound when dropped. If yours does that, you might be holding something worth a fortune, and here's where the real suspense begins. Dealers are now scouring coin rolls, estate boxes, and old collections searching for this mysterious penny. Reports keep surfacing. A farmer in Nebraska found one in a jar, a woman in Texas spotted one in her tip jar, and a teenager in Florida discovered one while sorting through a change machine. Each story carries the same electric thrill, the idea that a tiny, forgotten coin can rewrite a person's life overnight. But what happened next stunned everyone. After the $1 million auction, prices for rare 1979 errors began to climb fast. Even minor double dies were fetching hundreds, sometimes thousands, as demand exploded. It was a frenzy. Coin shops couldn't keep them in stock. Collectors were calling across states, hoping to find that one perfect no-mint mark specimen that could change everything. And yet, most people still don't realize how close they might be to holding one. It's hiding in circulation. It's sitting in drawers, jars, glove compartments, forgotten since the late 1970s. Waiting. The story of the 1979 no-mint mark penny isn't just about money, it's about mystery, history, and luck colliding in one tiny copper disc. It's about the idea that something small, something ordinary, could hold unimaginable value if you just look close enough. Start with the basics. Flip your penny over. If there's no mint mark under the date, that's your first clue. But that alone isn't enough. Examine Lincoln's face closely. Look for any doubling on Liberty or In God We Trust. Check for off-center strikes or unusually thick letters. If the coin looks slightly heavier, it might be struck on a copper planchet, another sign of rarity. And most importantly, look for proof-like surfaces, the mirror shine that indicates it was struck from a special die. If you think you found one, don't clean it. Don't handle it too much. Take it straight to a professional grader or coin dealer. A single mistake could cost you thousands, or millions. Collectors say finding one of these is like winning the lottery of numismatics. A simple penny, born from an accident, lost in circulation for decades, only to re-emerge as one of the most sought-after coins in American history. It's the dream every treasure hunter hopes for, a once-in-a-generation discovery hiding in plain sight. So the next time you see a dull, brown penny on the counter, don't walk past it. Pick it up. Turn it over. Look close. Because somewhere out there, one 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is still waiting to be found, and that single coin could be worth over $1 million. But when one sharp-eyed collector took a second look, he realized it wasn't ordinary at all. What he found turned out to be one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history, a 2005 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny worth up to $1.3 million. At first glance, it looks like any other penny from your wallet, brown, aged, maybe even scratched from years of use. But hidden in plain sight is a minting anomaly so rare, so unusual, that experts still can't fully explain how it left the US Mint undetected. And that mystery is exactly what makes it so valuable today. Back in 2005, the Lincoln Memorial Cent was still the face of American change. Billions were struck that year, most of them at the Philadelphia Mint with no mint mark. But among those billions, a microscopic handful were struck with an error that changed everything: an off-metal strike, a misaligned die, or even a rare composition mistake that gave the coin an odd color and a distinct metallic sound when dropped on a hard surface. For years, nobody knew these error coins even existed. They were hiding right under our noses, in pockets, cash registers, and coin jars across America. That is, until one lucky collector spotted one in a roll of pennies from his local bank and decided to take a closer look. He noticed something strange. The color was slightly different. The texture of the coin felt smoother, the details sharper. And then, when he tilted it under the light, he realized the date was perfectly struck but missing something he expected to see: no mint mark. That small missing letter opened the door to a $1 million mystery. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread fast that a possible 2005 no mint Mark Lincoln penny with an unknown minting anomaly had surfaced. Coin forums exploded with speculation. Was it a transitional error? A die mix-up? Or perhaps a unique experimental strike that accidentally slipped through mint inspection? The collector decided to send the coin for professional grading. Weeks passed, and anticipation built. When the results finally came back, the graders confirmed it. This was a genuine mint error unlike any previously recorded for that year. Its rarity pushed its estimated auction value to over $1.3 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to dig through old penny rolls, hoping to find another example. Coin shops received calls from across the country. Everyone wanted to know what to look for, what details to check, how to tell if their penny was the next hidden treasure. But here's the thing: only a few coins like this have ever been confirmed, and they share a set of telltale signs that most people miss completely. First, the absence of a mint mark beneath the date. On a normal 2005 penny, this indicates it came from the Philadelphia Mint, but this specific no mint mark variety shows other anomalies: a slightly off-center strike, a faint doubling on Lincoln's profile, and in some cases, a strange reddish-bronze tone due to a mismixed copper plating. Second, check the edges. On these rare pieces, the rim appears slightly uneven, almost as if the die wasn't perfectly aligned when it struck. Under magnification, you may also notice a subtle ghost image of Lincoln's coat lines or faint doubling in the lettering. In God we trust. Collectors who have tested genuine examples say when dropped on a hard surface, it produces a slightly higher pitched ring than a typical zinc-based penny, a clue that it might have been struck on an older bronze planchet left over from previous years. Experts believe several more of these coins may still be out there, circulating, unrecognized, hiding among the loose change people carry every single day. Imagine this. Someone pays for a cup of coffee with exact change. The cashier hands back a penny, just one penny. Later that night, that same coin ends up in your hand. You toss it in a drawer, never realizing that single cent could be worth over $1 million. Collectors across America are now obsessively checking their 2005 pennies under magnifiers and bright lights. Every tiny imperfection, every glimmer of difference could mean the difference between 1 cent and life-changing fortune. And yes, even though the 2005 no mint Mark Lincoln penny is rare, history has proven that these discoveries happen when least expected. The 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die, the 1972 double die, all started as quiet whispers until one collector looked closer, and that's the beauty of this hunt. You don't need a degree in numismatics or a pile of money to get started. You just need curiosity, and the willingness to look twice at something everyone else ignores. Because this story isn't just about a coin. It's about what happens when ordinary becomes extraordinary. when a piece of pocket change transforms into a $1.3 million masterpiece. The collector who found the first confirmed 2005 no-mint mark rarity said he almost spent it at a gas station. He had no idea. It sat in his car's cup holder for weeks before he noticed that faint color difference. That one moment of attention turned his ordinary day into a historic discovery. And now, years later, that same coin is legendary, a symbol of luck, persistence, and the endless surprises of the coin world. So if you've got a handful of pennies lying around, grab them. Look closely at every 2005 cent, pay special attention to the surface color, the rim, and especially that missing mint mark. You might be staring at one of the rarest modern Lincoln cents ever struck. But when it finally surfaced, it shocked collectors, stunned dealers, and sold for nearly $1.4 million. It's the 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary-looking, so deceptively simple, that millions of Americans have unknowingly held one without realizing they were holding a life-changing fortune. Now here's the twist. The 1982 penny isn't just one coin. It's 8 different varieties. And one of them, the no-mint mark small date copper version, is the one that turned the entire coin world upside down. But how did a penny from the 1980s, the decade of neon lights and cassette tapes, end up worth more than a mansion? Let's go back to the moment when it all began. In 1982, something huge happened inside the US Mint. After decades of rising metal prices, it was getting too expensive to make pennies out of solid copper. Each 1-cent coin actually cost more than a cent to produce. So, the Mint made a dramatic change. They switched the penny's core from copper to zinc, a cheaper metal with a thin copper coating. The new pennies were lighter, shinier, and cheaper to mint. But during this massive transition, a few mistakes slipped through the cracks, and those mistakes created one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents ever struck. Collectors call it the 1982 no-mint mark copper small date penny. Only a handful are known to exist, and when one finally appeared at auction, it sold for over $1 million. But here's what makes this story so mysterious. In 1982, both copper and zinc pennies were being struck at the same time. Some had large date numbers, some had small date numbers. And in the middle of all this chaos, a few copper blanks, meant for earlier coins, accidentally got fed into the presses for the new no-mint mark small date design. Those few copper planchets created the $1 million marvel that coin collectors still talk about today. One man found his in the most unexpected way. He'd been sorting through his old childhood coin jar, the kind most of us keep tucked away in the back of a closet. As he weighed his pennies on a small digital scale, one caught his attention. It felt heavier. He set it on the scale, and instead of reading 2.5 grams like a normal zinc penny, it read 3.1 grams. That tiny difference meant everything. He had stumbled upon the 1982 copper small date penny, the holy grail of modern Lincoln cents. But the real shock came when he brought it to a coin dealer. The dealer immediately froze, then carefully examined the date with a magnifying glass. He noticed the subtle shape of the slightly curved, delicate, thinner at the top. It was the small date style, and when he flipped the coin over, he realized it had no mint mark. That meant it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, exactly where these rare errors occurred. That man's pocket change discovery became a payday worth over $1.4 million. Collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers rushed to check their inventories. Even major grading companies like PCGS and NGC confirmed the discovery, one of the rarest and most valuable Lincoln cents ever found. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More people started searching their old jars, weighing their pennies, and sending them in for testing. But most of the 1982 pennies people found were either the wrong metal, the wrong date style, or carried a tiny mint mark, D, from Denver. And that one little letter made the difference between a common penny and $1 million treasure. To truly understand how rare this coin is, you have to realize how precise the conditions had to be. It had to be struck in 1982. It had to come from Philadelphia. So, no mint mark. It had to use the small date design, and it had to be made of solid copper, not zinc. That's the perfect storm that created one of the most legendary coins of the modern era. Now, if you're wondering how to tell whether your 1982 penny could be worth a fortune, here's how to find out. First, grab a small digital scale. You can get one online for under $10. Weigh your 1982 pennies one by one. If it weighs around 3.1 grams, it's copper. If it weighs 2.5 grams, it's zinc. Then, look closely at the date. On the small date, the top of the 8 and the 2 line up perfectly, and the 2 has a gentle curve. It looks thinner and more delicate. The large date version looks thicker and more blocky. Finally, look for that mint mark. If there's a tiny D under the date, it's from Denver, not the one you want. If there's no mint mark at all, that's your cue to take a closer look. Some collectors have spent years searching for this coin, and some have even found near matches, only to realize it was zinc instead of copper. But that's part of the thrill. Because the moment you find that heavy, 3.1 gram no mint mark small date penny, you'll know you're holding something special. This isn't just a coin. It's a piece of minting history, a symbol of the chaos of 1982, when technology, cost-cutting, and human error accidentally created a treasure worth over $1 million. Imagine checking your change, expecting nothing, and realizing one penny could pay off your house. That's exactly what happened to a few lucky finders who refused to overlook the little details. And the truth is, this coin could still be out there, hiding in a jar, sitting in a cash register, or resting in someone's drawer, waiting to change another life. So before you toss your pennies aside or cash them in for face value, take one more look. Weigh them. Study them. Because that one coin, the 1982 no mint mark small date copper penny, could turn an ordinary day into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Dealers are still talking about it. Collectors are still hunting for it. And every new discovery reignites the hope that one more could surface. It's living proof that even in a world of digital wallets and credit cards, the smallest coin can still hold the biggest secret. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, listen to that faint jingle of change. One of those coins could be worth over $1 million. But when a collector took a closer look, his hands started to shake. He wasn't holding just any ordinary penny. What he found was one of the rarest mistakes in modern U.S. history, a 1988 no mint mark Lincoln penny that could be worth up to $1.5 million. At first glance, it looks like every other penny you've ever spent, dropped, or ignored. The familiar copper color, Abraham Lincoln's calm gaze, and the date, 1988. But hidden within this tiny piece of metal lies a secret so powerful that it sent shockwaves through the coin-collecting world. For decades, nobody paid attention to 1988 pennies. They were struck by the billions. People tossed them in jars, car cup holders, and desk drawers. But then, something happened. One sharp-eyed collector noticed something unusual. A small, almost invisible detail on Lincoln's chest that didn't belong. It was a design feature from a completely different year. The penny he found wasn't supposed to exist. This was no ordinary error. It was a transition variety, a coin created when the U.S. Mint accidentally used an older die, the same master hub used for 1989 cents, to strike a few 1988 no mint mark coins. That tiny mistake produced a design mismatch that most people would never see. But for those who did, it meant instant fortune. Collectors were stunned. Dealers scrambled. Overnight, one of the most overlooked coins in circulation became $1 million mystery. You see, the 1988 no mint mark penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the mint responsible for coins without mint marks. But during a major design update, something went wrong. Instead of using the correct obverse hub, the mint pressed some coins using the 1989 obverse design, featuring a subtle but critical difference in the shape of the designer's initials, FG, for Frank Gasparo. That single detail, 2 tiny letters, changed everything. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The first confirmed example of this 1988 penny sold privately for tens of thousands. Then another surfaced, this time in near-perfect condition, still shining after more than 30 years. That coin would go on to be valued at over $1.5 million by collectors, due to its rarity, perfection, and the pure accident of its creation. Imagine finding one in your change. A coin worth more than most cars, houses, or retirement accounts, hiding in plain sight. The late 1980s were a chaotic time at the U.S. Mint. New dies were being prepared, new technologies tested. In the rush of production, an older reverse hub was mixed with the newer obverse dies. These dies were used to strike thousands of coins per minute. So, for a brief, unforgettable moment in 1988, history and error collided. The mistake went unnoticed until years later. By then, most of these pennies had already vanished into circulation, spent, lost, or destroyed. But a few survived. One of them surfaced in the hands of a casual collector who had been searching through rolls of pennies bought from a bank. He noticed the lettering looked different, smoother, cleaner, slightly off. When he checked the designer's initials under a magnifying glass, he saw it. The telltale sign, the G in FG, connected sharply to the tail, the 1989 style. That was the moment his life changed forever. The news spread like wildfire. Coin forums lit up. YouTube videos, news articles, and collector clubs all buzzed about this discovery. People everywhere started digging through their change, searching for that same tiny marking. Because this was no ordinary minting flaw. It was a hybrid, a transitional treasure. A coin born at the intersection of two minting generations. Dealers couldn't believe it. "We thought all 1988 cents were common," one expert said. "But this one rewrites the book." And suddenly, the humble 1988 penny, a coin most people would ignore, became a symbol of hope for every collector. It's not just the error. It's the scarcity. Out of billions minted, only a microscopic fraction are known to have this variety. The condition matters too. The sharper the detail, the higher the grade, and the bigger the payday. Collectors pay special attention to the reverse design, where the Lincoln Memorial stands tall. But the real secret lies on the obverse, right under Lincoln's shoulder, where those two little letters, FG, tell the story of $1 million accident. But wait, there's more to this mystery. Some experts believe there may still be undiscovered examples hiding in old penny rolls, coffee cans, or piggy banks across America. They argue that not all of the error dies have been accounted for, meaning more of these treasures might still be waiting to be found, and every year, someone new stumbles upon one. Sometimes by pure luck, sometimes after years of searching. One man in Ohio reportedly found his 1988 no-mint mark transitional penny while sorting through his grandfather's old coin jars. It was nearly perfect, untouched for decades. That coin was later appraised for over $1 million. Think about that. A single penny, forgotten for a generation, turned into $1 million miracle. But most people miss it. They see the date, they see Lincoln, and they move on. They don't realize that the secret is hidden in the tiniest of details. The difference between an ordinary coin and a life-changing fortune. 1988. Make sure there's no mint mark under the date. That means it was struck in Philadelphia. Next, turn the coin under good light and focus on the designer's initials. FG. On the right side of the Lincoln Memorial. If the G connects smoothly to the base and looks slightly curved inward, that's the 1989 reverse design, the key sign of a transitional error. If you see that, don't spend it. Don't clean it. Handle it carefully and get it verified by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, because that tiny detail could mean your penny is worth more than $1 million. Collectors are still hunting for these coins. Dealers are paying record prices. And every day, ordinary people are discovering that sometimes, the smallest piece of change can change everything. So, the next time you're handed a handful of pennies, stop. Look closer. Check the date. Check the details. Because one of those plain brown coins might not be ordinary at all. It might be one of the rarest mistakes in U.S. mint history, a 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny worth up to $1.5 million. And if you find one, your life could change forever.